If you made it to 2024, give yourself a pat on the back. Not everyone is as fortunate as we are at this point. The new year ushers in various traditions. Having spent the last 6 years in Japan, I've come to appreciate a few more oranges. Historically, symbolizing prosperity, good fortune, often gracing entranceways, homes, and restaurants. I currently have a bag of delicious mandarin oranges in the fridge. The new year signifies rebirth, fresh opportunities, and is common practice of setting new goals, bringing us to this conversation. I'm Logan Innes, the host of the Spiritual Danger Close blog and podcast, now in its fourth season. Last year, I introduced a novel approach to goal setting called specific, measurable, assignable, realistic, time-related, initiative, execution, and spiritual. In it, I extended an invitation to readers and listeners alike to take up an opportunity of the Smarties Challenge. On a side note, if you participated, I would still love to hear from you and learn about your experience. Given that a whole year passed, I won't dwell on a lengthy exposition about my trials and tribulations. Suffice it to say, I have found Smarties to be practical in practice, but with some limitations. I plan to introduce a new system of updates and build upon the Smarties concept, introducing new concepts and methods I've encountered, used, and read about. I'll be experimenting with these in my own life as the first participant. For those who missed my previous discussion in Spiritual Danger Close Thoughts number 14, Smarties Goal Setting, How to Conquer 2023 Spiritually, you could find the link to that episode and blog in the episode description. This discussion will be in two parts. Part 1, I will briefly provide a background of Smarties, delve into self-reflection, explore how to supercharge your goal setting, touch on goal setting theory, James Clear's systems of habits, emphasize the importance of gratitude. Additionally, I'll introduce several new tools: the Pomodoro study method, 20-80 rule, surgical time block, and additional planning methods. Furthermore, I'll examine Smarties through a lens of habits and explore additional resources, unveiling a new challenge for this year. Finally, in part 2, I will illustrate how Smarties will work using my own desired outcomes as an example. In 1981, PhD George T. Doran introduced a goal-setting framework for business management called specific, measurable, assignable, realistic, and time-related. This method aimed to help businesses define goals, assign tasks, assess practicality, and set timelines. Common pitfalls include lack of detailed planning, goal adoption issues, misunderstandings, and procrastination. The issue with the SMART framework is it's meant for macro and is very poor framework for adopting at the micro level for individuals. In 2023, I proposed an enhanced framework called SMARTIES, specific, measurable, assignable, accountability, realistic, time-related, initiative, execution, spiritual, for goal setting on the individual basis. Here's what I changed. Specific, clearly define the desired outcome, such as running a 5K. Measurable, quantify outcomes, like analyzing the components of what a 5K race is. Assignable accountability, designate somebody to be accountable to, ensuring and focusing on purpose. In most cases, when dealing with individual goals, we aren't assigning tasks to subordinates, but rather for ourselves to complete. Realistic, consider practicality, avoid unrealistic expectations, start small and build to larger goals. Time-related, establish when and where actions will occur. Allocate daily time and investment. Initiative, take proactive steps for success, such as buying running shoes or signing up for a class. Execution, actively reflect on progress and identify areas for improvement. Spiritual, consider overall well-being, evaluating the impact on oneself and others. This step is practical, regardless of religious beliefs or lack thereof. In the execution phase, I came back to the reflection on the challenges I faced, including not having enough time, mismanagement, deviations to my planner, laziness, unplanned interruptions, etc. I only accomplished half my goal, aiming to finalize my extended play album. Technical issues and longer than expected music production process contributed to this delay. A cold further hindered my process, rendering my throat unfit for practice for a week. Additionally, I misunderstood the timeline for releasing music, but this has been addressed. Furthermore, this is technically two goals in one. I should have separated the two, prioritizing first the single song, then working on the extended play album. Finally, I was able to now check this goal off, partially complete though, having successfully launched the second single for my music project, A Type in Shadow's upcoming release on January 12th, 2024. Link to the YouTube premiere is in the show description. This section, I'll discuss lessons learned, new tools and methods I came across, and apply SMARTIES methods in 2024. Quantitative methodologies, examples such as collection and analysis of data through numerical interpretations, have been the primary means of examining goal setting, which often overlook qualities of why certain methods were more prevalent to success. To address this, Travers et al. Conducted a qualitative study on self-reflection, growth, and goals in academic study. Their cohort of 92 students, which consisted of 52% female, enrolled in a management degree programs, participated in a 15-week-long study. Researchers provided occupational psychologists as a module researcher to aid participants through coaching meetings and worked on 5 stages of reflection and goal setting. The researchers found the reflection stage was crucial for goal success. Participants identifying problem areas better managed short-term setbacks. Additionally, participants reflected on the importance of positive social networks, which aided them in working towards their desired outcomes by aiding in stress management and reflection and highlighting potential areas for improvement. In a 6-month follow-up, Travers et al. Found greater desired goal outcome, increase within self-esteem, and the use of diary or journal and goal setting increased self-participation towards the desired outcomes. Most people live their lives filled with dreams of what they wish they could have, and in most cases comes down to not actualizing what their actual outcomes look like. In his book on this topic, Greshes discusses how often people such as single men want money but don't know what they will do with it. When pressed with the men tend to look at materialistic outcomes like buying a sports car. In surveys on successful millionaires or multimillionaires, common denominator is coupled with the individual having a clear purpose. A factor in individuals not working towards their goals or struggling is not accounting for failure. Greshes explains that success could be viewed through an enduring through failure. Happiness is the act of managing setbacks, success, learning to be happy throughout the real means of success. Greshes offers the following 5-step process to be happy. See it, write it down, plan it out, act on it, and stay with it. Joschka Heifetz was a world-famous violinist who amused that he still practiced after 50 years, starting his 3-hour practice session upon waking up. He once said, "If I don't practice for 1 day, I know it. If I miss 2 days, the critics know it, but if I miss 3 days, my audience knows it." In closing, Greshes argues commitment is not a trait you are born with, rather one that you acquire. Goal setting has become a global market of self-help gurus, of individuals trying to sell individuals the magic golden ticket to success. Locke and Latham, 2013, addressed the academic backgrounds of goal setting and academic roots late in the 1960s to formal development in the 1990s. Goal setting has grown to further developments and shedding light on why some individuals are successful. The theory is a means to explain the how and why some people are or are not successful from biological aspects. School of thought called control theory that argues goals are largely driven from biological processes. The goals are then affected through moderator variables such as ability, feedback, commitment, task complexity, constraints, resources, personality, the finality of the goal, and the effect. These moderator variables enhance or reduce the effectiveness and attenuation of the desired outcome and goal. Locke and Latham, 2018, explained that the goal setting theory was largely built on several decades of research. Nearly 40,000 study participants is from a scientific consensus the most reliable means to view individuals and effectiveness in achieving goal outcomes. Recent research on success has been in the area termed pitfalls, aspects that negatively impact the desired outcomes. If you understand what pitfalls may arise through your goal setting, then you can better adjust for them. Pitfalls include, but are not limited to, risk-taking, fear of failure, goals as threats, stress and anxiety and ability and skill, self-efficacy, non-goal areas were ignored, choosing goals to set multiple goals, etc. The theory of success will continue to be an area of research shedding more light on goal setting theory and practice and refining parameters and attainment of the desired outcomes. James Clear, the author of The Atomic Habits, Tiny Changes, Remarkable Results, argues that individuals focus so much on the goal instead of the system, or rather habits, that would yield the results. Looking at sports team, Clear explains championship winning teams focus on practice, not the winning. Clear states, quote, goals are good for setting a direction, but systems are best for making progress, end quote. Clear argues there are four primary problems goal setting. Winners and losers have the same goals. Achieving the goal is only a momentary change. Goals restrict our happiness, and goals are at odds with long-term progress. The system is a means for achieving the same outcomes. For example, recall the world-famous violinist. What did he do for 50 years? Practice for 3 hours a day. Whatever Joshua Heifetz's motivations were, he became the best by having a direction, then consistently, 3 hours a day, work towards the desired process or behavior, resulting in the desired outcome. Building on the idea of a system rather than a set of habits which leads to desired outcomes begins with tracking one's habits. Clear instructs beginners to start with a habit tracker. Starting off with a calendar and crossing off times, one performs the habit, wherein the calendar in turn becomes a visual representation of your habit. Motivation of you to continue the habit and offers immediate satisfaction, something humans really like. Clear suggests that you need to scale down the habit to where you could take it 2 minutes to complete. Knowing that pitfalls arise, Clear offers a simple reminder: never miss twice. This way, if he misses one day, it's not an issue. Quote, missing once is an accident, missing twice is the start of a new bad habit. End quote. When asked how long one should track a Clear habit, advises 66 days, as most recent studies indicate it takes that long to build the habit. Creating a tracker is another tool that enables individuals to be successful. At first glance, gratitude seems to be an easily definable concept, an English word with a Latin root gratia, defined as a state of mind or an emotion. Gratitude is a cross-cultural historical disposition humanity has had a keen interest in. Emmons and McCullough, 2003, set out to examine mindset outcomes of gratitude versus burdens in individuals' and daily lives, examining mechanisms of association of gratitude with happiness, well-being, and more. The authors argue that the proverbial, quote, count your blessings, end quote, will have an impact on well-being. Their study sample was, quote, of 201 undergraduates, 147 women, 54 men enrolled in public psychology class in a large public university, end quote, with 9 participants results being excluded in the analysis. Over the course of 10 weeks, researchers assessed participants who were given one of 3 packets: gratitude, hassle, and events, that were randomly distributed across the 3 different study groups. Compared to the other 2 groups, the first study group suggests that gratitude is an important factor to overall well-being. The researchers were not satisfied with the previous 2 studies. Therefore, in the 3rd study, they examined gratitude amongst participants with neuromuscular disorders. Here, in random assignment of gratitude packets, quote, resulted in greater levels of positive effects, more sleep, better sleep, quality, greater optimism, and a sense of connectedness, end quote. It should be noted that due to the limited time frame, the authors concluded several weeks is not long enough time frame to observe an effect of gratitude exercises. In study 2, participants journaled gratitude daily, which led to more pronounced outlook to those who journaled only weekly. According to the Broad and Build method, gratitude not only makes people feel good in the present, but also increases likelihood people will function optimally and feel good in the future, end quote. What this means is that we must take an active step towards learning this mindful practice of gratitude. What this looks like will vary person to person, but a good start is a daily journal or schedule listing a few things you are grateful for at the start or end of your day. When it comes to scheduling, not everyone thinks of hospitals, but those who work in coordinating rooms for surgery understand the importance. Block time is a particular surgeon is scheduled for an operating room for a period. A trained surgeon, James Allen, MD, explains that surgeons find block time efficient and allows patients to know exactly when an operation can be performed. Hospitals that mismanage block time can cause loss of confidence among staff and potentially lose surgeons to the hospital that can manage their time effectively. Downsides are not filling the block time with surgeries or filling times with too much, causing overcapacity during times of emergencies. Surgical block time can be applied to personal planning as a means of highlighting and scheduling the most important things throughout our day. Detailed, minute-to-minute planning isn't essential for most individuals. Instead, highlighting key meetings or appointments during a specific period, such as work hours from 0 to 7 to 1500, can be more practical. Adopting surgical block timing scheduling enhances productivity and flexibility throughout the day. Allen 2022 explains that block time for surgeries, important tasks should be 80% scheduled, with 20% scheduled being unscheduled for flexible tasks, also known as the 20-80 rule. It is advisable to customize a surgical block time method to your unique circumstances. Align increments with your available time and tasks at hand. For example, every weekend, I dedicate a block of 2 hours to work on a school competition on Saturday mornings. This block includes tasks like catching up on research, updating presentations, and attending a Zoom call. This dedicated time is visibly blocked off my planner, and you can also use coordinations for block time, color coordination for block time, as a key code to signify their level of importance. Some tasks don't require immediate attention. Rather, completing them within a specified time frame during the week is sufficient. The 80-20 rule, also known as the Pareto principle, is a familiar saying that asserts 80% of outcomes or outputs results in 20% of all causes or inputs for any given event. Originating in 1906 after economist Vilfredo Pareto identified that only 20% of his pea plants were responsible for 80% of the growth, the principle gained traction in the 1940s when Dr. Joseph Juran applied it to quality control, emphasizing the pursuit of maximum value. This principle suggests that concentrating our efforts on the vital 20%, be it clients generate 80% of the revenue, leading to potential opportunities. In short, focusing on elements yield the greatest result. Tardy clarifies that the Pareto principle is not a mathematical law, but a guide for periodization, emphasizing that neither the 80 nor the 20 is more significant. In academic context, this might involve a student studying the most crucial textbook for an upcoming exam. Engaging in study can be challenging, often leading to strain on our mental capacities and focus. Francisco Cirillo introduced a method of productivity by using a timer, adopting the Pomodoro technique named after a tomato-shaped timer he used. This technique involves working for a set period, like 25 minutes, followed by a short break of 5, and then resuming the cycle. This pattern is repeated until the task is completed. For extended study sessions, it's recommended to go through 4 cycles of study and rest, then take a more extended break to address the mental and physical strain. Personally, when it comes to large essays, I prefer the 50 minutes of study with a 10-minute break. This way, I do not lose concentration or have a train of thought potentially interrupted as often as I would have with the 25-5. On YouTube, you'll find plenty of Pomodoro study stations that have built-in timers, everything from seasonal themes to Harry Potter study ambience by house. As we consider choices, we should remember that it is not enough that something is good. Other choices are better, and still others are best. Even though particular choice is more costly, it is greater value and may be in the best choice of all. But not everything of that sort is worth the portion of our life that we give to obtain it. Some things are better and others are best. When the Lord told us to see learning, he said, quote, "Seek ye out of the best books of the world," end quote. Dallin H. Oaks, 2007. Learning to apply the good, better, best approach takes practice, but I am a personal fan of this method. In economics, there's this concept of opportunity cost, which is defined as, quote, "potential benefits that individual, investor, or business misses out on when choosing one alternative over another," end quote. I want to make sure I am doing the best thing every single time, which means it should be as effective as possible. Using this method, I think Smarties has room for improvement, as I have used it approximately 10 or more times in the past year for small or large outcomes. What I noticed, as James Clear mentioned, is I was prioritizing the goal rather than the steps it takes to get to the goal. However, there were a few times when I did make the steps working backwards for the desired outcome to the present. Clearly define singular suitable action which leads to a desired outcome. I want to run a 5K, therefore I need to run daily. Quantify outcomes, like analyzing the components of a 5K race. Sticking with clear systems of atomic habits, we should also measure each activity the day we are doing it. Designate someone to be accountable to, ensuring focus and purpose. In most cases, when dealing with individual goals, we are not assigning tasks to subordinates, but rather tasks for ourselves to complete. For example, some running applications have social media aspect to posting, encouraging camaraderie. Consider practicality and avoid unrealistic expectations. Start small by building up to larger goals. Additionally, write down potential pitfalls you might encounter in this new goal. Establish the when, where actions will occur and allocate daily time investments based off of your outcome. Look at the time it takes and work backwards from a macro to micro scale. Sometimes we can work micro to macro as needed. Life, year, quarter, month, week, day, hours, seconds. Initiatives, inputs. Take proactive steps towards success, such as buying running shoes or signing up for classes. Inputs are specific actions or resources or commitments we take for us to get to our desired behavior. Ask yourself, what does it take for me to achieve this goal? For example, if your goal is to run a 5K, an input might be committing to daily running routine. Execution is an active step of input building for a new system of behaviors. Actively reflect on progress, identify areas for improvement, and ask yourself, is this yielding benefits or outcomes? Actively assess your progress, celebrate achievements, pinpoint areas for improvement. Utilize tools such as a calendar or fitness app to track your daily running progress. Additionally, maintain a record of encountered pitfalls. Assess whether these challenges were within your control, whether better planning could have mitigated them, or whether there were external factors. For instance, if weather conditions impede your run outdoors, recognize the need for an alternative arrangements, like a gym membership or a treadmill. Ensure proactive adaptation to unforeseen circumstances. Consider the overall well-being, evaluating the impact on oneself. This step is practical regardless of religious beliefs or lack thereof. Additionally, during this process, during the execution phase, there should be some reflection, mindfulness, and gratitude. For instance, during the activity phase, we might reflect on the daily running. We can describe in our tracker and planners or apps how the run made us feel. Recall, this method goal system is about consistency that yields the desired results. While at first it may appear complicated, this system should be effortless on application. Previously, I mentioned the personal application of Smarties. I use short, succinct statements using only the first letters within the acronym. Then, in very brief sentences on what I'm looking at. Now, in the steps of measurable activity, track your progress and consistency. I prefer to use a written daily planner. But I also will use apps and fitness trackers on weights, repetitions, distances, etc. In fact, as of writing this, I have come across nuances in the section of productivity videos of YouTube emphasizing the importance of written notes and daily planners and journaling. There are many ways of going about achieving our desired outcomes. In 2023, I put out my alternative goal framework for individuals called SMARTIES. I highlighted my personal usage of this framework and primary pitfalls I face, such as combining separate outcomes into one and not measuring my consistencies with basic steps that yielded results. Then I explored new tools to enable success, such as self-reflection is a key aspect in accomplishing goals. Desired outcomes should lead to happiness and why we do them. Examining goal setting theory, prevalence over the last 34 years, then I discussed why systems are considered more effective in productivity as they look at behaviors that lead to goal success. Importance of gratitude for well-being in our spirituality. The use of surgical block time is the most important to the steps using the 80-20 principle that allows for flexibility in your scheduling, highlighting only the most important needs. Then I discussed how some lo-fi beats with a Pomodoro timer have been effective in aiding my personal studies. Finally, I introduced a refined SMARTIES method that incorporates aspects of James Clear systems to better emphasize within our minds the desired outcome. What are we aiming for? And is this something that yields happiness? And that concludes part 1. If you'd like to see me apply this in my personal life, please stay tuned for part 2. Link will be to the video in the bio. Thank you.